So, sir, what would be your comparative analysis between the Indian submarine arm and that of China?
You see, China made a head start much ahead of the Indian Navy in this regard. They started development of the strategic boats from mid-60s. Initially they were taking assistance from the Russians on design and related aspects, but subsequently there was a chasm between the Soviet Union and the Chinese, so the assistance of the Soviet Union stopped. So as a result, the duration in which the Chinese could finally develop and deploy a boat of their own increased, time increased, it almost extended to about 20 years plus. Their first boat was of, strategic boat was of something called Jia class. They had very limited range, and then they were, as always happens in a lead boat, there are teething troubles and, you know, in terms of technical parameters which are to be fulfilled at sea. So they had all those teething troubles. So the first boat more or less became kind of a technological demonstrator. Then they have graduated to Jin class, and which about 6 of them are in service. 2 are under construction. Then there's another new one which is a 096 design, which 6 are planned but 2 are under construction. So at the moment one could say that they have about 6 boats, strategic boats in service. In terms of range, they claim to have a continental missile with up to 8,000 kilometers range. Well, it has to be proven. We don't know. It's their claim. So in that term, they have, I would put them much ahead of us. But we will surely catch up with regard to the number of platforms and the range of missiles. Now we are not interested in 8,000 range, but we will be, as I understand what I've read in the papers, that we should soon be having a range, missile range of about 5,000 kilometers. That will be for sure, and then it probably could go up to 8,000. But that's to be seen. We'll see as the time goes past, that the capability will be acquired. The only aspect is manning and training. See, we have a very strong and robust system of training in the Indian Navy, and which is at the moment conducted from the training school at Visakhapatnam, INS Satavahana. So INS Satavahana actually is the overall training establishment for submarines, including the conventional ones of all types, Kilo class, Scorpion, Shishumar class, that is the German 209 boats. And it has a separate section for the strategic and the nuclear powered boats. So from the training, but you see what is there in the Indian Navy, the service is purely voluntary. Whereas in the Chinese Navy, it's compulsory service, or as they in Russian they call it srochna slozba. So you know that sailor does only 2 years in service. So he spends some time in training, and then by the time, I think, if he gets his expertise going, it's time for him to leave and go home. So from that point of view, Indian Navy is far better placed in terms of the training and competence of the crew. This we noticed even in Soviet Union when we trained there, because they also have the similar system of compulsory service. And we found that most of the jobs, even in their Navy, were done by the officers and the senior sailors who had a longer service span. Whereas the sailors used to leave in 2 years' time, and their efficiency was not as good as our sailors was. So that is a factor which is always to be kept in mind. Otherwise, in a strategic boat which is meant purely for a deterrent role, there is very little of tactical operations scenario. See, because the strategic boats they sail go to designed or the assigned patrol station from where most of the targets are in reach, and she spends time there and when called upon to do so will release the missiles. That is, it usually doesn't take part in the fleet operations. So in terms of tactics, hardly any application. It's only the strategic application as to, and that also is basically decided by the Strategic Forces Command. So, but the fact that there is a very large differential between the level of training and competence between our sailors who are under contract for a minimum of 15 years, whereas in their case it's just 2 years compulsory service. So that differential will always be there.
Is there any aspect in the submarine arm that needs a revamp?
Well, that is you see, it's an ongoing thing. We have a organization called the Flag Officer Submarines, who's the class authority for all types of submarines in the Indian Navy, and he formulates the policies of planning, training, manning, and every year we have something called the Submarine Arms Cadre Review. So they review the levels of training that have been achieved, anything that have to be further enhanced in terms of training aids, in terms of now more and more virtual reality is coming into the training of the crew, which helps in the sense that you don't need to replicate the hardware at a reduced scale in the training establishment. It can be generated on a virtual reality platform and can give the operators a real feel of the ambience as well as the operation of various valves, machines, machinery, planing apparatus, joysticks, etc. So that's an ongoing exercise, and I really can't say at this moment what, because I'm now out of the Navy for nearly 20 years. But suffice to say that the arm has got mechanisms to take care of this aspect.